If you read the Constitution, it's pretty clear what the government has the right to do.
Can I say something?
I truthfully, yes, go ahead.
We have gone over and over and over this for months, years even, and we still keep saying the same thing over and over again. So we finally come up with this idea that we will have what we call this panel that we're going to complaint review panel that will be made up of people in the community and board member, at least one board member and at least one person from the community that will be on this panel. And then when we go through all these things and somebody has a complaint about that house down there on the corner, and they come to the panel and they talk about it, and so the panel decides what they're going to do about it. And they don't, it's made up of people from the community, and so why can't we just get through this and then see what happens? We can't assign these people to be on this panel until we get through and say, okay, these are the ordinances. And then if somebody complains about it, they're not going to get fined $500. They are going to go to the complaint panel and they will work with them on finding a solution to the problem or the complaint. But we're not going to get there if we keep going over the same thing over and over and over again. And if we do get that far and we do approve these ordinances, then the panel can take care of it. And if they decide that down the line that is not a good ordinance to have, we can amend them. We don't have to keep them there, but we need to do something to see where we're going to. I mean, I'm not good at explaining this to you, but it just seems to me like that we're just spinning our wheels. We're not getting anywhere except to get upset at each other.
Well, except that the people who don't want the ordinances are getting what they want because we keep churning. Right? I mean, that's what happens.
No. We're not getting what we want. I'd just like to pass that around. Does everybody?
I mean, I don't know. My personal opinion is true. I think we need to have a standard. We need to say, if you're going to be here, this is the way. I mean,
And
I don't know.
since it's lengthy, you might just read the last paragraph. There's plenty of.
Where is this from? What is this site?
Well, that one, it says there, it's actually the 16th Amendment, Jurisdiction 2, Section 177. It's like all that, and these are other case laws. So basically, it says that
Did you
even though
want
you,
this read into the minutes?
if you'd let me, I'd read it in.
Well, I think we can add it to the minutes with not reading it out loud.
Okay.
We've got one. I've got one.
I'll just zoom in on it.
Well,
Focus, isn't
Alisa,
it?
to what you said, I would say, I agree with you, and that at some point, we need to stop churning, I think, or whatever, going over and over and over, and make a decision. And to say, we're going to adopt this, and we'll vote on it, and we'll see what the majority is, and then it will become what it is, or it will, become what it is, whether it's implemented or not implemented, or enacted or not enacted. But all this, I don't think we're getting any new information, which I think is what you're saying. We keep making the same arguments on both sides.
But she alluded to the panel helping people in that whole procedure. That's not an ordinance. I mean, the ordinance is that prosecution based on, this, and this, and this. What she just said is a whole other thing. Why don't you write that up for the ordinance then, Aletha? And
We
have
are
that be
going to when we finally decide on these here.
Where
we
does
have
it
not
say?
appointed, or how do we do that, this panel yet. I don't understand at what point we are going to.
Well, the panel would be part of the ordinances, and so at the point that we adopt the ordinances, the panel
What
would
I
be
mean, we have to adopt these ordinances before we can put an ordinance in to have the panel.
It would
Yeah.
include,
Madam Chairman,
Yeah.
you have already
I
adopted.
thought
Yes.
yes.
Yes,
The
that's what I thought
question
so
is
too.
whether you want to amend them and to make them a
Before
little
we start
different than they were
enforcing.
before you
That's
start
right.
enforcing,
You're
but
right.
they're
Yes.
already adopted. I don't know that I can find it immediately, but I was under the impression that you had included the panel in the ordinances already.
Yeah.
I thought so.
But,
Yeah.
you know, take a,
Because we
I don't have
chose,
my computer to just look it up, so.
Yeah.
we chose to do the panel because we felt, you felt it would be more fair than having an officer,
Enforcement.
an enforcement officer tooling around town. And when we know that made everybody uncomfortable. So therefore, the board decided to do this panel where people can come in and complain or have ideas or whatever. If there's a complaint, then I think the board will take that complaint on, contact the homeowner, property owner, whatever, try to work with them.
The complaint panel will.
Yeah, yes.
Madam Chairman, I did find it. It's in your general provisions ordinance, which is written to apply to all ordinances. It's in section 21. Do you want to
Page?
either read it or anything, or
I see it.
Yeah.
if you have copies of the
I don't
ordinances
have, I
here.
just brought the property maintenance. one. I
What,
don't have
what
it.
page are you on, Lucille?
Do you have the ordinance book?
I do have the
Okay,
ordinances.
I'm on page 10.
I'm sorry to be a thorn in people's time, but I have to say this in regards to what you're saying, Alika. I thought I heard a
Did you
member
find
of
it?
the community
No.
say
Then
the general
this is-
consensus of the community is they're going to do what they want to do anyway.
What, that the board is going to do what they want to do that.
I challenge.
They don't know what they're talking about.
I challenge.
And if
Well, I
they
disagree.
disagree with it, they should come talk to us, right?
Well, and
Because
I
everything,
did,
but there's nothing with hearsay, nobody's here to
Yeah, I-
substantiate,
That's right, I
and
challenge.
all I heard was hearsay.
That's why she held up a petition
Signatures.
that was signed by 19 people.
26.
That
first
is
one, yeah.
dealing with personal property.
Yeah, I wasn't approached to consider that for signature, but I have been told by some people who were that the conversation was, the ordinance say people can come in your house and take anything they want without your permission. And that's not what our ordinances say, and I would be against doing that. And so I'm not sure that everybody heard what the ordinances say when they were being approached with the petition. Just, again, that's what they said to me, I wasn't approached.
But the ordinance did say that you could enter into our homes.
Administrative warrant, page 61. It says you can seize. It didn't say what you couldn't
It
seize.
says you can seek an administrative ordinance approved by the, administrative warrant approved by the court to verify an ordinance violation. And or
So
to
you-
correct it. under
You can
certain
violate our
circumstances.
Fourth Amendment rights
Commanding the village.
in order to get evidence to incriminate us.
Nobody's trying
We
to
won't.
incriminate you.
then eliminate the ordinance. I think that's the consensus, eliminate.
I know for a fact people are trying to incriminate me.
In some cases.
It does say such.
Madam Chairman, could I just make a comment? What you're really dealing with is a very basic difference of opinion as to what is constitutional and what is not. And it probably irresolvable in terms of those with one opinion are unlikely to agree with those with the other opinion. I read this, what Mary passed out, and I agree with every word it says. However, the items you're dealing with have been largely adjudicated and declared constitutional. Now, I happen to think that Supreme Court isn't always right. And so I understand the point of view, but you at some point, the elected officials need to decide what they intend to do. If you intend to, it was incorrectly stated the complaint review panel wasn't a part of the ordinance. It clearly is. But, and it's outlined pretty thoroughly. But But the difference of opinion as to what is constitutional, what is not, can't really be resolved because there are arguments on both sides. I mean, you look at the Supreme Court, you see how it's divided. When they make a decision, I often disagree with it, but, and sometimes I agree. But ultimately, it's your responsibility to decide whether you want to, and at any time, if you see something that the majority of the elected officials believe violates the Constitution, you absolutely should take it out. The problem is the belief systems are different. And where you go from there, that's up to you. But the belief systems are different. And all of you believe you're adhering to the Constitution, whether it's Lori's point of view or Beth's or anywhere in between. There's not a soul here who's purposely violating the Constitution. But there are
Does anybody here
differences.
know what the Fourth Amendment actually says?
There are differences of
Anyone?
opinion as to how that's implemented, and you're the people elected to decide what they are. And as far as me, you tell me what to do, I don't tell you what to do. So if you decide you want to do something completely different, then that's what we do.
You know,
So I would suggest we forge ahead, continue looking at the concerns that are being raised, and then noting them, and when we come back around to voting on these, we can decide whether we want to alter them or not. I mean, that's the only way, we gotta,
that wasn't exactly
No.
correct information, though, that she gave you if she's advising you, because those can be changed. It is done at the federal level, whether you think the Supreme Court is not. But you can take something to U.S. Supreme Court. That's where that will be dealt with. Not in the local magistrates, but in the federal jurisdiction. And then the fact that you aren't controlling it, if I went back and reviewed the videos, I've seen you move from there to there, but you're still, even from back here, it's like, let's have a couple of what-if scenarios until things get changed around to where you actually have implemented it. And that's what I've observed from the meetings. Thanks for your input.
And that's your personal opinion, and other people have
That
their
is my personal opinion.
Okay, Beth, can you clarify a little bit more?
well, we said it's tonight, we're gonna, and it's been almost an hour now, and we've got other business to do. And so, and that's another way of getting our position, is by running the clock out, and solve them all the end. And then, so, and I'm not saying you're trying to do that, so I'm proposing that we continue through the ordinance with you and us looking at the things that we came from that May 14th meeting, or other people told us in between.
That you presented
No, well,
in
no.
your 3 papers.
Yeah,
No.
But I think yours is more thorough, so we ought to stick with yours.
Okay, so we're just gonna continue this at a future time.
Well, I'd say let's finish up this ordinance tonight, there's only 4 sections or 5 or something, so that's my, I mean, I'm not the chair, but I think that we can at least get something done, just like we got through the dogs and the animals. So let's see if we can get through this one. What do you?
So what other suggestions, I mean, what are other complaints and suggestions to make changes to this one?
Well, each one of those sections, there's issues with them. And one of the things on section 6 was the wording of it. It's just a sample thing, so I don't know where to go from here.
But the philosophy doesn't change, it's still that's a personal issue, it's personal property, so it's a personal issue, it shouldn't be regulated. And that's the theme of what you're saying, and so to say, so to address it in a way that you're telling us about would be to just not have that ordinance at all. Or can some words be changed that make it?
Well,
Okay.
you know, I guess I would like to be given some time, and maybe we could reword them and come and present to the board a rewording of them. I know we can ask Lucille to do that, and we were kind of general, and she's right, we keep throwing around these generalities and stuff, and we need to get more specific. So if we table this tonight, by next week, or by next month, we may be able to come up with some specific,
Because you don't think that since the May meeting or since last month's meeting, people felt empowered to do that
I
or invited to do that?
yeah, I really felt
Oh, no.
and see, I didn't know we were going to do personal property first. I really felt like the
She's gonna review it.
dog issue and the animal issue trivialized what people were trying to say. We changed 2 words. We did change the rabies thing. That was good. But we changed 2 words from
And you think there were other,
demand to require or request.
and do you think that there were other things brought up at that meeting the board discussed?
Yeah.
That
Addressed.
Yes.
the board addressed? Okay, and you had them at the last meeting and just to bring them up as we were going through what I had?
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
now do you feel empowered to bring them up no matter what somebody has? That's your role in this board, is to speak up and represent your point of view. I mean,
Fourth Amendment.
We all need to.
Well, one of the things I realized in looking at them that I wasn't personally prepared to say, I think we should do this with it. You know, because I personally was trying to get my sea legs with the board. I didn't know what I could do and what I couldn't do. And so, and from what I understood is that the town was going to see what you were going to do as a board with their requests. So now they kind of have an idea of what we're going to do, which is, we're going to do it anyway.
Chadwick said.
Which is what happened
Well,
when
we discussed
presented.
it, and people made suggestions, and we voted, and
Yes, we did.
those were the changes that we decided to make.
I agree.
And so I don't know what else, I mean,
So let's tackle those 2, and I don't think we're coming to an agreement or to be able to deal with this property thing tonight. I don't know, that's my opinion.
so do you think that by next month you could have this totally gone over and have
Be a lot more specific.
more
Yes.
specific?
Yes.
What, that each one of us on the board go through it and decide how we think it ought to be? Or we come and to another meeting and listen to everybody have what they say and go through the same thing over and over again? What are we supposed to do? What do you, the board, what does everybody think the board is supposed to do? Go home and read through all the ordinances and say to ourselves, pray about it, whatever we need to do, and say, this is what we think ought to be changed, and even if we think to ourselves that that's what is right, without having to be influenced by everybody, that's everybody else, that we come and we write up, just mark it out and say, this is what we think ought to be done. Then we come back to a meeting and we start discussing it and deciding this is what we're going to do. And then everybody else will say, no, that's not what we want you to do, so we will put it off till next month, and then we will put it off till the next month.
I understand what you're saying.
And the town's gonna probably crumble and fade away. Oh my gosh. But I think that's a good idea, because you don't know what the ordinances are, Alita.
I don't know what the ordinances are.
You
I've
should read them. Well, you
I've
don't.
read them through and through and through.
See, you must have missed the part about seizing and, coming into our homes, the town officials, and seizing and photocopying, that part.
That if you refuse a consent, if you don't consent to a search, then they can get a warrant and search.
And seize and photocopy.
If a warrant is issued, we can apply for a warrant.
But it says
It's
that
gonna be issued.
That they can
If
come in.
we're a village, we're gonna have rules. I mean, we're not just Mary, and we're not just Dave. We are, somebody comes in, they're looking at everything. So that, we're gonna have rules that people aren't gonna agree with, but they're not for.
But you're saying
they're not for
You're saying that you can come
folks
in
like
and take
you or me or
our
whoever
stuff out of our
that
house.
that are law abiding.
in this ordinance it says that if I assert my Fourth Amendment rights and I don't allow you to search my house, that's grounds for an administrative warrant to come in and search my house.
And seize.
That if I assert my Fourth Amendment rights, then I'm somehow presumed that's probable cause to get a warrant to enter my house. If you have probable cause to begin with, you don't have to ask my permission.
That is not probable cause. Probable cause requires you to have some evidence. And
But that's not what the ordinance requires.
Okay, why don't we discuss this, since this is not
Yeah,
anywhere
that's
even
not
on our
even
agenda?
where you are.
May I make another suggestion? Now, these ordinances are already established according to you, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's already
So
been
if the board
adopted.
wanted to, we could go ahead and implement the pattern,
Exactly.
the panel.
Yes,
You are
but
being
we have
very- the board is being
decided
very
that we are
open.
going to wait until we have gone through
Let the
some
fundraising
of the
begin.
suggested changes and stuff that the community
You guys can change your mind.
made before we assemble the panel.
You can change your mind.
I think that's what we're going
Yes.
through.
That's why we're going through it.
now.
But you're getting, okay, I understand. That's just a suggestion.
I mean, yes, ideally, yes, we could have made the panel 6 months ago, or,
If it says, well, it'll discontinue, and we're getting worn
but
down.
we chose to go through the
Okay, I
ordinances one
appreciate
by one and make suggestions, opinions, whatever, and before we started doing that. So, what's the general consensus? Do we want to approve it like we have it now, or, are we going to wait until next month?
Well,
Because we do need to get on
Yeah.
with our meeting.
I mean, my sense is that if people felt like they came to the May 14th meeting, they made comments, and they weren't included in the discussion, that we need to include that, because that was certainly my intent and my best effort to do that, and so I feel responsible that they didn't get in there. Because, I handed out a warrant, the very thing you were reading from got distributed to everybody, but I don't know how folks would feel like they had it, but apparently that's what, that they didn't have that input, even though it was in writing, the way Deanna wrote it, I copied it, I gave it to everybody, but when we went through, we looked at it, but, so I'm fine with, having it for one more month, but I think we need to set a definite amount
I
of
thought
time
maybe we were saying
and
those.
have specific, not just theory, but specific, on line 7 on page 14, section 2,
What?
change this word to that word, or delete that sentence and put this sentence in. I think it's gotta be specific.
Through that.
Does that seem reasonable?
Section 2, you want to cover that? Just with
So
us or with them or?
So we want to table?
Yeah,
This-
I would just say that we.
We'll put this on next month's agenda to discuss then, and hopefully have some more detailed suggestions of changes by then.
When you were saying that you want each board member to go through the whole thing and decide what changes ought to be before next.
If that's what you would
The
like
whole
to
thing
do.
is the problem.
Yeah, if you would like to do that, then you can do that.
I
I mean,
think you're okay with the way it is.
Huh?
I think you're okay with the way it is.
Okay.
No, I am not okay with everything exactly like it is, but it's just a matter of changing a word here and there or something like that.
okay, we're going to move on to amending the ordinances we discussed at the last meeting.
The first one is bill number 2015-04, amending ordinance number 2011-08, animals. Section 8, to revise the word demand to request.
If it wasn't important, why don't you bring it up at the meeting?
So is there any discussion on any?
That was just the first bill.
Okay. So do we have to
You have to read it.
approve that?
I have-
Read it twice? Okay.
Okay, the second reading is amending ordinance bill number 2015-04, amending ordinance number 2011-08, animals. Section 8, to revise the word demand to request.
I move the adoption of the bill.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do you need a roll call?
Oh, roll call vote, I guess.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Keep up here.
Okay, roll call vote.
Roll call vote, David Langhart,
Aye.
Dorian Fisher,
Aye.
Aletha Turley,
Aye.
trying to write and talk at the same time. Natalie May, Beth Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion passed. Moving on to the next one.
Okay. That is bill number 2015-05, amending ordinance 2014-04, dogs, section 2, 9, 13, and 17, to eliminate the requirement of rabies vaccinations, revise the word demand to request in section 13, and related matters.
The bill actually says instead of or, it says or instead of I know,
It probably,
I think it's just a typo, but
Yeah.
we have to correct that. So
So then it's
before we, because it wouldn't match up otherwise.
and I'm reading it off the agenda later, I'm sorry.
Oh, 4, 24, section 2, 9, 13, 17. Eliminate the requirement of all rabies, for rabies. It's in dogs.
On,
So,
requirements to eliminate
Which
the
one are we on?
requirement for rabies vaccination.
oh, or, so it's not 4.
Four, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay.
For rabies. Amending ordinance number 2014-04, dogs, section 2, 9, 13, and 17, to eliminate the requirement for rabies vaccinations, revise the word demand to request in section 13, and related matters.
any discussion? None? Second reading?
Second reading, bill number 2015-05, amending ordinance number 2014-04, dogs, section 2, 9, 13, and 17, to eliminate the requirement for rabies vaccinations, revise the word demand to request in section 13, and related matters.
I move the adoption of the corrected bill 2015-05.
My second.
Roll call, vote, David Langhart,
Aye.
Dorian Fisher,
Aye.
Aletha Turley,
Aye.
Natalie May,
Aye.
Beth Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion passed.
A little faster.
Get your one.
Next one is 2015-06, amending ordinance